Right, which is fine.
Wait, why is it fine?
Well, because I was afraid that Geschwindner was going to be the Mark Holtzman role. Because when you're behind and you in the polls and you have money, the only thing you can do is go scorched earth. I mean, that's the only response, is to just say, here's why you suck at everything, and just get really ugly and nasty. And Mays doesn't have the megaphone. I mean, the guy's got, what, $10,000, and he's paying himself $5,000 a month in
I'm sorry.
Mileage. No, go ahead.
Here's the reason that McGinnis has a little bit to fear, and normally I would say he had nothing to fear. The reason he has a little bit to fear is Ken Buck. And because, you know, Mays is going to piggyback on Buck, he's going to make the case that, you know, we're the outsiders. You know, you don't like Jane Norton. There's no reason. If you don't like Jane Norton, there's no reason why you should like McGinnis either. So he's gonna. If there is a real anti-establishment.
No, let me ask you.
No, I'm saying if there's a real anti-establishment movement in the Republicans in the voting this year, you know, Mays will get some of those votes. Now, I don't think he can beat McGinnis.
No.
I don't think can we all agree? There's no way that Mays is going to be able to win this primary.
I think there's no chance.
If there was a chance, and if he was like Buck, he would have something in his treasury. Mark Holtzman could have his own money. Joe Geschwindner could have had his money.
Right.
But Mays only has those people who don't like McGinnis, and there are a lot of Republicans who don't like McGinnis. Right. So it's still a distraction, and this is what I mean. If the Republicans were playing the way Democrats play, they'd get him in a back room, they'd have it out, they'd find out what concession McGinnis needs to make to get Dan Mays off the ballot so he can focus on Hickenlooper. But that's not going to happen because we're Republicans.
But that goes back to Mike's earlier point that there is some like dark, from my perspective, some like dark divide in our party. And I can't figure out exactly what it is, but you will meet a Republican and you'll say, well, were you Coors or Schaefer? Well, were you Holtzman or Beaupre? Well, were you, and we're continually having that. And I have not yet seen, and I'm thinking that it will come in the form of a person, a person who can come in and really bridge that divide, somebody who can unite us.
You know where I saw a divide, not in Colorado, but outside of it, was during the primaries in 2008, Republican primaries, and with McCain, and how, I mean, I was stunned, not that a lot of Republicans didn't like McCain, I knew that, but I was stunned at the level of dislike. I mean, how visceral, it was. No, I mean, seriously.
He gave us McCain Feingold. Right, this guy's not a Republican. If this guy is not a Republican, then I'm not.
Well, he did win the Republican presidential primary, I believe.
And that's the point. No, John, you just embodied it. You just explained it. I hate campaign finance reform. I think that it's absolutely ridiculous. However, you just explained it. Because there were plenty of people in our party who looked at McCain and said, if he's a Republican, I'm not. Now we have Barack Obama.
And you're welcome. All right, so I think that when Ritter stepped down and said, I'm not going to run, McGinnis's job doubled in duty. I thought Ritter was easy pickings. I think Ritter knew he was easy pickings.
It was a disaster for McGinnis.
That's why he stepped down.
It was a disaster for McGinnis.
So here's my question, one I'm interested in and would just like to have answered by Romanoff. When Hickenlooper decided to run, did he offer LG to Romanoff?
When Hickenlooper?
I mean, that's out there, and the story. I mean, I know a little bit about the story, and I mean, Romanoff. There was a thought that the lieutenant governor would not run in the second term, and she had expressed that thought for a while, and they talked to Romanoff, and this was long before Ritter stepped down. They talked to Romanoff, and this was when Romanoff was going crazy about what he was going to do.
Because he wasn't given the U.S. Senate seat.
And the real fear, you see, the real fear originally for most of this time was that he would primary Ritter. I mean, this is what people have missed in all this conversation. It wasn't about Bennett until the very end, because Romanoff didn't have anything. He didn't get into that race until the last second before he got into it.
How seriously was Romanoff thinking of
He was thinking very hard. And labor, there were a lot of people in labor who wanted him to primary Ritter. So, and Romanoff wanted to primary Ritter, and it's my understanding, people I've talked to, and I believe this story, that Romanoff decided not to primary Ritter because he would look like a crybaby if he did, and that's why he didn't do it, and he ended up going against Bennett. So, there was no blackmail to get him out of the Bennett race, but everybody wanted to get Romanoff a job just to get him out of the way, get him off their backs. So they were trying.
I mean,
so when talk about Hickenlooper trying to get him a job in Washington, that wasn't about Bennett. That was so long before Bennett. It was, Andrew was mad. He was in a snit, and he had a lot of people on his side. They just wanted to get him a job and make him happy.
Isn't it amazing that Ritter was able to piss off both the business community and the unions? It takes a special politician to be able to get both sides so angry at you.
It actually shows how bad a politician Ritter is. And I don't think Ritter was a terrible governor. And I think he's a smart guy who worked really hard, and I think he had some good ideas. But as a politician, he never figured out from the first day in office to today how to go that divide between labor and business. He didn't know what to do in either case, not to make both sides angry. And I agree. It's almost impossible to make both sides thoroughly angry with you, but he did it.
I've only got about a minute and a half left. Let me ask you about Mays and McGinnis. Does Mays cost McGinnis enough that he can't win in the fall?
I don't think so.
Why?
I, this week, spent some time following John Hickenlooper, which was really interesting, for whosaidyoussaid.com, trying to get...
Oh, is there a site like that?
There is.
Amazing.
But I actually spent some time, he is touting himself as rather than bipartisan, he's touting himself as nonpartisan and the most transparent politician out there, and he wants everybody to know who he is, and he wants everybody to be nice. So I spent some time following him around because our videographers from Who Said You Said had been kicked out of all of his events. And I had emailed his campaign and called his campaign and said, hey, how do we get invited? Why won't you let us in? You say that you're transparent. And I have watched him. I think that people are going to see that he's somewhat of a hypocrite, and that despite whatever happens in the primary, McGinnis is going to beat him.
I think Hickenlooper is going to win pretty easily in this
Even
race.
On this Republican year.
I think he's really good.
Thank you, Kelly. And from the island of misfit, wasted 60s hippies, thank you, Mike Littwin. And thank you. Tell a friend, and we'll see you next week.